southeast of England, 15 miles southeast of London. So over to you, and let's find out who you are, where you are, please. KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
Okay, Mark, and nice to pick you up again. Our last contact is January 17th of 2023 in the 12-meter band, and then previous was a 10-meter contact 2022 of December. Name is Mike, Mikey the Kilo Echo. QTH here is Minnesota. I heard you calling. I just got in the shack. I was firing up everything, and sorry for the delay. Over to you, Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot. Kilowatt Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPV M0 JCF. Oh, Mike, nice to meet you again. And yeah, I can confirm we've done 10 and 12 meters before. I seem to be attracted somebody to this frequency today who decided that he wants to keep transmitting Morse, and it's just CQ, 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 and da-de-da. You know, every now and again it comes up, but I can use the notch filter and just get rid of that irritation. But it sounds like a, you know, like automatic recorded type of CW. Sounds a bit too perfect to me. But anyway, 5 and 5 to me, Mike. 5 and 5. Now I've had a good moan. As I say, it's just crazy conditions today. I've got both DX and sporadic E conditions here in the southeast of England. Using the IC-7300, I'm using 100 watts, and the antenna is just a 5/8 wave vertical antenna. Back to you, Mike. KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
Okay, Mark. Yeah, the 5/8 vertical antenna is what I used when I first got on the air, and working 10 meters as far as I could go, as far as HF, and that was working fine. It's just amazing antenna. The takeoff angle's great for 10 meters for sure. So maybe pick up a little bit noisier than anything else, but you know, it worked out great for me, Mark. Yeah. Well, I'm running the same radio on this end, ICOM 7300. But I'm putting out a little bit more, a little over 400 watts, and I have a hex speed of 52 feet. So here's a quick rundown on working conditions, Mark. I don't expect you to remember that. It's been a few years, and nice to hear you. Sounds good on this end, that's for sure. It's working out well for you. And I don't know what the band's like. I haven't even checked. Like I said, I just turned it on, heard you out there. I figure fire up everything, get the computer going, and lo and behold, there you are, Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilowatt Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPV M0 JCF. Now, I don't remember what happened yesterday, Mike, let alone 2 years ago and 3 years ago. I do see in my notes, though, that you replied to my CQ12 and my CQ10 meters. The last one we had on 12 meters was exactly the same setup as we got now, but I put in the notes there was a deep QSB, and the prior to that, the one in 2022 on 10 meters, I was using my old TS590S and the same antenna, so not a lot to change. The band wise, well, as I say, it's been a mixed bag at the moment. I only came on about half an hour ago, and I'm getting cross-Atlantic calls, as well as I can hear Middle East, lots of Israel, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the ones that you normally expect. Then we got the Italians, which is, I don't think it matters with conditions with Italians. I seem to receive Italians left, right and centre. And interestingly, I've just had even a QSO with somebody in Malta, or the island of Gozo, just off of Malta. And I've also been hearing Europeans and Inter-G, UK stations in excess of 100 miles. So I'm suspecting we got a little bit of sporadic E, but the signals are really fast QSB and a very deep QSB. So if it's sporadic E, then the E clouds are probably on the move and charging around over the Mediterranean and Europe. That's all I can explain it. But DX wise, signals have been what they always are for me, sort of in the sort of 5s and 6s. There's a few big stations out of the USA. I know one of them is using a 7/7/7, and I think he's in the New York or Maine area. and he was coming in 5 and 9 plus, but you know, with the antenna system, it doesn't surprise me at all. 12 meters, there's a few of those DXpeditions, the Keeling and Cocos Islands, or Cocos Keeling Islands in the Indian Ocean, and as you would suspect, they're working split, but the pile up is absolutely fantastic on his 10 to 15 split. So that's the story there, mate. Back to you, KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
Yeah, okay, Mark. Well, you got me all caught up, and I don't have to wonder what's going on. And I was watching your signal go from a 5.5 to a 5.7, almost 5.8 that last go around, Mark. So just proving what you're telling me. The QSB is kind of crazy, so yeah, that's all right. So I'm looking for an expedition. I'm working when I can. It's always fun with the pile up. It's timing and trying to figure out who they just last talked to and jumping in there. So and then of course you got the people on the frequency that always keeping people in line and yelling, he's working split. You know, a guy makes a mistake, and it just you should listen more. I get it, but but it's tough. I've been trying to. I worked a few stations on split, some DX expedition, and then I wouldn't even hear the guy because somebody would be calling over him or yelling he's working splits. I really wasn't sure that they worked, and so I have to look it up later, but I think I got it through. So it's kind of a bittersweet both ways, and sometimes we're our own enemy when that happens. So it's all good, though. Take it as it comes for sure, Mark. So hopefully I'm still getting back to you. Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilo Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPV M0 JCF returning. Well, I'll give you a revised report as well, Mike. You are just hitting on this particular bar graph on this radio, and my ears, you were hitting 5 and 9. Pretty much consistent around the 5 and 5. You wasn't really dropping much below that, and you wasn't really going too into like the 5 and 9 too often. But just as you were telling me, you know, I was all over the place. That's exactly what your signal was doing. But you know, 10 meters can be like that. You know, some days you can switch a radio on and 10 meters is dead, even though the SFI is like in the 170s. But of course, with high SFI, we normally get sun activity that you know, gives us blackouts and God knows what else. So that's all the fun of it. Talking of the fun of it, I was at my radio club last night, and I was doing a talk on low pass filters and amplifiers. What it is once a year at my club I do a practical evening, and I make up a lot of kits of low pass filters, amplifiers. Last year we did oscillators. The year before that I did amplifiers, and I make up all of these kits out of all of my spares. And I'll do a quick chat, a 15-minute chat on, you know, like the background and the, you know, like the theory of whatever we're talking about. And then last night we had them all making things, and what I'm gearing them up to do is to build a top band transmitter, a QRP top band transmitter. Now with my club members, we run a net once a month on a Monday evening on top band. And the attraction there is we use either homebrew or vintage radio equipment. For instance, this Monday just gone, I was using an old Kodar AT5 transmitter from the mid 1960s, and I was using an FRG 7700 receiver from the about 1980. So you know, it's pretty much vintage equipment, and we going on AM as well. So you know, lots of vintage action, and what I've been trying to do is gear these people up to make them a small AM transmitter. So they've done, you know, we've done amplifiers. We've done integrated circuit amplifiers as well as transistor amps. We've done the oscillators, and we've done last night, as I say, filters, transmit filters, low pass filters. So I feel everyone's ready now to build their first AM top band transmitter. And one of the reasons for me doing this, I know that, you know, we're now at the peak of the sunspot cycle. And of course, as we come over the other side and the higher bands start to drop off, 10, 12, maybe even 15 meters, I thought if we can gear people towards top band, which nowadays is very underused, mainly because people can't put the antennas up, and if we can get people building stuff, and top band, you can be quite sloppy, is the way I would say. With top band, you can be quite sloppy. So I just want to get people building their top band transmitters and maybe just using their transceivers for receive only. You get the idea, and I think that was quite a long over for me to run my mouth off there, Mike. KB0 MPVM0 JCF.
No problem there, Mark. To say something about all the older radios that you have. You got quite a collection now, and it's good, Mark, that you're using them. A lot of people collect them, and and then pretty soon they too much. They're really heavy to put on the air, just to moving it from the shelf to the station. It picks up what we call boat anchors. I understand why they call them boat anchors. Somebody in the local area knew I was a ham operator, and he knew it was something to do with radio. I don't know if I wanted it. I think it was an old Chief Kit radio. So I went to pick it up. Never picked one up before. Oh my goodness, man! Oh man! The what you can call the transformer or whatever inside there. It was so heavy, and I understand. I do a lot of fishing up here. It would be a boat anchor. So I gave it to a guy that does it, uses it. And, he made use of it. He came with a bunch of other stuff too, so it worked out well for him. But yeah, I know what you mean. The term boat anchor is for sure. Got a question for you, Mark. And I'm using the solid state Elecraft KTA 500. And on top of below that is the heat kit SB 1000 linear amplifier I got from the ham. He's a silent key now, great guy. And the only reason I don't like to use it is I don't like to key up on the air. If I got myself a dummy load, and I thought there has to be an antenna to actually tune it. To the frequency, but I don't see how a dummy load could do that. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe enlighten me. Can I tune up on a certain frequency in a dummy load, which I know I can, but will it be good for when I do go on the air? Is it going to be tuned? Is my question. I always hate when people are tuning up, but the old stuff, that's the way they did it. They had to go and tune up on the air. So. And I always know when somebody's going to call me. Sometimes I'll hear a carrier, a couple KCs away, and all of a sudden they come in. So, what was a proper way of doing that? The dummy load, will that work? It would tune up on the frequency that you want to use at the time, Mark. Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilowatt Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPVM0 JCF returning. Well, I would say that is right and the proper way to do it. You should always tune up into the dummy load first off, because obviously you need to be tuning into a 50 ohm load, 50 ohms impedance load. So, to tune into the dummy load, it doesn't matter that transceiver, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's tube, whether it's a linear amplifier, it likes to go into 50 ohms. Of course, after that, once you switch from the dummy load to the antenna, unless you're using a resonant antenna for whatever band you're on, then you'll use the antenna tuner to correct the mismatch. So tuning into the dummy load is optimum for both a hybrid or any transceiver. You should tune into a dummy load first. That way the transceiver's tuned exactly for 50 ohms. So yeah, these old hybrids, old tube radios and old linear amplifiers, they should be tuned into the dummy load. Then you tune the antenna. So obviously if you're using, like I do on the lower bands, a random long wire, then what I would do is I would tune into the dummy load first. That way my radio is seeing 50 ohms and its tank circuit, okay, the capacitors and the coil for the tank circuit, the final circuit, is tuned optimum for 50 ohms. Then when you connect up your antenna may be 500 ohms, so you would be using your aerial tuning unit or whatever to tune that. and but you know that the output from your radio is 50 ohms. You just need the antenna feed point to be 50 ohms. So as I say, unless you're using a specific, like I am right at this moment, I'm using a 10-meter band vertical antenna. So that's the way I would do it, and that's the simplest way I can explain it, if that makes sense. KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
Yes, it did, Mark. Yes, and I probably can get a dummy load and try it sometime. It's just, you know, doing the plate, the grid, and all that. You'll get it once, and you can mark it down. You get kind of close, and you can kind of fine tune it as it goes. So I'm just not a fan. It's a solid state. It's so much simpler. And my antenna is the hex beam, and it's very, very good tune for you know, the band that I'm on. So I don't have to worry about that. So I more or less, it's further linear. It should be optimized so it's performing properly. I've used it a few times, and people can't, you know, they say it sounds good and that. It's good. It's just like new as ever used. And I got a brand new tube that came with it. Brand new, still in the box. So, which I think, as far as tubes go, it might be kind of valuable now, because I don't think they're made too much anymore. I don't know any guy who would even do it. But what I can't stand, Mark, is you know, when it's on, she's got a noise to it. You know that she's on. The whole countertop is vibrating, so you know it's on. So I guess in the long run, saying it, Mark, I think I'm spoiled. I think I'm spoiled with a solid state. So yes, you just played it well. You did good. And hopefully you still did. You did take it down that last go around, but hopefully I'm still getting back to you. Mike to 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilo Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPV M0 JCF returning. Yeah, I mean, your signals drop into the floor. You're like 5 and 1, but it is a readability 5, and the noise in the background sounds like the ocean waves crashing against the shoreline. And yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you can't really get it too wrong. You know, if you tune anything into a dummy load, at least you know that side of it is at 50 ohms. All you've got to do then is connect it to something else that's 50 ohms that isn't your dummy load. That's the way to think about it. There is a school of thought as well that, you know, if your antenna is a random antenna like my long wire antenna, you might not even need an aerial tuning unit. You know, some people say, well, whatever your feed point impedance is, you'll be tuning the tank circuit to that feed point impedance, but I'm not convinced about that one. But it's quite interesting as well. I just mentioned the background noise when your signal goes low is the ocean crashing on the waves. Sorry, the ocean waves crashing on the shore. And I'm just thinking, you're in where'd you say, Minnesota? So you're quite landlocked, aren't you? Apart from the Great Lakes. Now, the Great Lakes, I've flown over the Great Lakes, believe it or not, and got a fantastic aerial view of Lake, it would have been Lake Huron or possibly Michigan, I can't remember. It might even have been Erie. I know I took some photographs from the aircraft of it, and I was just wondering, are the Great Lakes tidal? You know, like, I'm talking about the ocean, and of course you're in I'm sure you've seen the ocean, but you know, you're in a landlocked part of the USA, and I'm just wondering if you say you go fishing, if I know you've got lots of lakes up that way, but if you go to the Great Lakes to fish, and if it's tidal, like, you know, like the seas around here, and you know, do you get that effect? I think that's what I'm trying to ask is, have you heard the ocean but on an inland ocean, as it were? Because that's how I see the Great Lakes, as inland oceans, because they're huge. Of course, you probably go to, I don't know, lakes that are still massive for me but quite small for you. Does that make sense there, Mike? KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I understand, Mark. Yeah, in fact, the first time I and waded in the ocean, I went to visit my daughter last week. We drove down. It was a long drive, and I got to touch and taste the ocean for the first time. Yeah, so I got to touch the Atlantic Ocean for the first time in '63. So been an inlander. That's what they call it, inlander, for all that time. The time before that was like 40 years ago. I went to Alaska and touched the Pacific up there, and it was a pretty short touch and go. So, and then in for 2 weeks of salmon fishing. So yes, the lake you're thinking of, it touches Minnesota's Lake Superior, and then it goes Michigan, and then Lake Huron, and out to I think I'm looking at it now, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and out to the ocean. So yeah, it's very dangerous water. Stays 50 degrees. Cold. It does freeze over sometimes, not quite, not too often though. But yes, the freshwater fish would be your lake trout and all your rainbows and stuff like that. Got your freshwater fish, Yes, it's
Frequency is in use. Frequency is in use.
She's rocking. The wind's rocking. That lake is definitely putting out some very strong waves. Very strong. And he's probably, I don't know if you heard, there's many ships that got shipwrecked out of Lake Superior down way deep water. It's just crazy. Put it this way, Jacques QSO, I think you're old enough to remember if we had his mark. He was in Lake Superior many years ago. It's a story somebody told me. And he said he would never go in Lake Superior ever again. It was way too dangerous. Temperatures and the depths of Lake Superior, it was not, for whatever reason it was, I think something went wrong. You would never withstand the cold water temps without, being prepared for it. So, which I thought it would be, but anyway, that's the story I was told, Mark. So, okay, so getting back to you. Mike Zero, Juliet Charlie, Tino's Bravo Zero, Mike, something for you.
Yeah, KB0MPVM0JCF. Oh, fantastic bit of information there, and I like your knowledge of all the lakes. And do you know what? That's quite fascinating. That for the first time you saw the Atlantic Ocean, and when you went up to Alaska, that's when you see the Pacific Ocean. I mean, obviously I live relatively close to both the English Channel and the North Sea. And of course, I've visited, like the Atlantic Ocean many times. I mean, we quite often go to Florida for holidays. So I've touched the Atlantic Ocean from your side many times. Likewise, the Gulf of Mexico, or as it's now called, and I'm just looking at a map, the Gulf of America, but you look at the Gulf of Mexico, and I've touched that as well. And of course I have touched the Pacific Ocean. I've been California, top to bottom along the Pacific Coast Road, and or the Pacific Coast Highway, and so I've touched the Pacific Ocean from that side many times. And then I've been to Australia, New Zealand, I've been to the Far East, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. So I've probably touched most of the oceans of the world. I'm not sure that I can lay claim to actually touching the Indian Ocean. I'd have to get my head around when I was in Indonesia many years ago, if I was actually in the Indian Ocean. I'm not convinced about that. Oh, the Arabian Sea, I haven't touched the Arabian Sea, and I haven't touched the South Atlantic. Well, maybe I have, maybe I don't know. Oh, it's the Tasman Sea, the Coral Sea. Yeah, I've touched lots of them. So there you go. But no, I just find it quite fascinating. That I've got friends that live in the USA. I've got friends that live in Wisconsin. And in fact, my friend who lives in Wisconsin, he's right on Fond du Lac. So Fond du Lac, I'm sure you know it. It's inland. It's west of Lake Michigan. And let me just bring up a map and see where he is. Yeah, Fond du Lac is right on a big lake, but I say it's big by my standards, and it's Lake Winnebago. I don't know if you know Lake Winnebago, but it's just slightly west of Lake Michigan. But there you go, really fascinating. I really enjoyed that. Back to you, KB0MPVM0JCF.
Okay, Mark. Yeah, I've heard of Fond du Lac and Lake Winnebago. Yes, I went to Manitowoc. Manitowoc is the name that they need you name. I fished Lake, what is it again? Oh my goodness, Lake, not Superior, but Manitowoc. And Fond du Lac sounds so familiar. It's probably close to there, but I'm quite a ways from there. I'm in the east central part of Minnesota. You can look me up sometime, Mark, where I am. And there's lakes everywhere. Yeah, you know, 4 minutes is the closest lake. And by snowmobiles, 5. That's crazy. Anywhere. Very good fishing. Very good fishing in this area. And of course, to go out better fishing, you got to go north. You know, what my good and better fishing is somebody's like, oh wow, I caught a fish, but I do catch fish. A lot of fish. You sound like you're quite the world traveler, Mark. You've seen more things than I ever will. I grew up on a farm, didn't get to go much to go fishing. And my grandparents had a summer place on a place in Wisconsin. Such a treat for me. Not to have to do chores every day, not that I think I'm complaining, but to go for a week to go fishing was just fantastic. We all look forward to it. Two siblings that we had with do that was so fun. It was so fun. Now that I'm older, just doing hunt, I do nothing but hunt, fish, and on the radio since I've retired. And I get to pick the days when I want to do it, and I do it all I can. In fact, I'm going to go ice fishing this afternoon. When I got back to Florida, I kind of want to figure out what ice conditions are like. Because when I left, it was quite warm. I just want to get on the lake where the ice has got eaten up by the shore because I had to got to be a smart Minnesotan in that sense, Mark. But going to get on the ice, catch some crappies and some sunnies, and it's probably what's going to be for supper tonight. Fresh fish, nothing better, Mark. Mike 0, Julius Charlie, Kilowatt Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0MPVM0JCF returning. I am a big fish lover when it comes to eating it. Yeah, I like trout. I like freshwater fish. I like that slightly earthy taste. I'm sure you know it, being that you're a lake fisherman. I used to fish when I was younger. When I was before I was a teenager, even. My grandfather was a very big fisherman, and he gave me a lot of fishing gear before I was the age of 11, and I used to fish quite often, and used to catch all sorts of lake type fish, whether they be carp or tench or there's barbel, some, like river fishing as well. But I was never big on it. And my next brother down, the one down from me, he become the fisherman. And, he was a fantastic match fisherman, what we call match fisherman. So he would fish for, as a sport as well as for eating. But sea fishing, I like to go... not out into the ocean type fishing, but we do go out into the English Channel every now and again, and what I catch then I do eat. I bring it all home and we eat it. But I was going to say, I've just looked on the map as to where you are, and yeah, just north of you is the Leech Lake Reservation, and I can see there's hundreds of lakes around there. You're really spoilt for choice. Above that, you've got the Red Lake Reservation. To the west of you Detroit Lakes. It looks like it's a town called Detroit Lakes, and there is just hundreds and hundreds of lakes. It almost like, you can't get away from it. And of course, the other claim to fame that I have, Mike, is I see you're very close to Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, and my claim to fame is the first time I ever flew to Los Angeles, we had to stop and refuel at Minneapolis, St. Paul. So there you go. I've actually landed in the major city close to where you are now, and never the twain shall meet. We landed, we refueled, we didn't even get off the plane, but that's the closest I've ever come to where you live actually on land, is the fact that we stopped there just to grab some fuel. KB0 MPVM0 JCF.
Okay, Mark, yeah, someone jumped on frequency here. Somebody probably couldn't hear you. Maybe they can hear me now. The frequency's in use. The frequency's in use. Yep, but they are on those lakes that you mentioned, yes. They're about an hour away, but, I single my lakes out here, Mark. If you know what walleye is, I like fish walleye. It's my main target fish I fish for. The season is closed in Minnesota right now. It closed last month when I was in Florida. They closed on me, so I had to get some license. So year round. So, but yeah, and there's some hidden secret lakes, of course, being from here. A lot of people don't know have very good walleye fishing. Sometimes, otherwise it gets can get, and most people wouldn't go through the trouble to get to them. To go for walleye fishing, it's like what I call like a virgin lake. It's crazy. They've never seen many lures. Wouldn't be like fishing in Canada, which is fantastic fishing. I've never been fishing in Canada, but I've been Lake of the Woods and Rainy Lake is a border Canadian lake. And this is fantastic fishing up around there. So, anyways, quite warm. When I was down in the 40s, so it's, I think they still have a fish house at some lake about 5 minutes from here. There's somebody with all that warm weather. They should have been smarter than that and got it out, but now it's stuck in the lake. Now they have to pay to get that out. And it could be out. I'm not sure. I haven't heard, but it was all over Facebook in the area, and I kind of noticed, so that's how I knew about it. But yeah, you got to be smart. Ice isn't always safe, but yeah, and the walleye fishing, that's a lot of fun up here, Mark. We do a lot of it. Yeah, you mentioned the Twin Cities. Unfortunately, the cities are growing and growing, and it's just kind of ruining our solitude and quietness around here. As things area is still pretty good, but you can feel the growth coming our way. And if I have to, I may go north where it's a lot quieter. Not a big fan of a crowd. I got 60 acres up here in the mountains across the road here still. The road that I live on, there's not too many people that are on it, so it's still got a lot of elbows. In general, it's still pretty rural. So it hasn't enclosed, so too bad here. So hopefully I still get back to you. And you have to let me know if it's still go, okay? Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilo Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victoria.
Yeah, KB0 MPVM0 JCF, still perfectly readable. I do have a Santiago 2 noise floor now, Mike. It comes up regular as clockwork every afternoon. I think possibly somebody's got something that automatically switches on. It may be something to do with solar panels. A lot of houses around me now use solar panels on their roofs, so it's probably some cheap, horrible converter that they're using. And fishing wise, you know what, it's on my bucket list to actually visit the Great Lakes, whether it be from the USA or from Canada. I don't know. I keep talking to my wife about us crossing Canada and ending up at maybe Toronto, somewhere like that, and just possibly going around there just to tick that box. So maybe I could get some fishing in as well. But I think if you want solitude, you know, if it's getting too crowded where you live, I think Montana or Wyoming or maybe South Dakota, I don't know, Nebraska, you know, around the Rockies, it looks like it's not very heavily populated at all, and probably for good reason. I'm not big on the geography of the area, but I know amateur radio wise, there's very few amateurs that I hear, and I've worked amateurs in most states now, but I think there's about 6 states that now elude me. Alaska and Hawaii are 2, but Montana, Wyoming, one of the Dakotas, it might be South Dakota, I can't remember, and you know, there's a few of them around there that I just have never heard hams operating out of. Likewise, I suppose if you want more solitude, you could always move north to Saskatchewan or Manitoba, you know, and I'm sure A, there's lots of fishing, and B, lots of solitude. But C, of course, lots and lots and lots of ice, especially in the winter. I mean, like this year, for instance, where I live, we haven't seen snow this winter. And we've just had 1 week of absolutely glorious sunshine. It reached about 15 degrees Celsius today, which is about 60, 65, something like that, 60 degrees centigrade, Fahrenheit. And, you know, I'm in shorts and a T-shirt, and that's how I've been all week. And it's been fantastic weather here. Spring is definitely here. But I've been hearing from amateur radio operators in your area, you know, there's still snow on the ground, still ice in the mornings, ice in the evenings, and still the cold winds from the northeast. So I don't know. I think the only time I'd like to actually visit would be, you know, in the middle of summer, because my friend who lives at Fond du Lac, he, you know, he does appear to have fantastic summers, but really vicious winters. Anyway, Mike, like you, I've been hearing people coming on the frequency. Quite often I hear above 500 around about this area. I do hear a lot of Russian stations talking into Russia, you know, they're talking to each other. So it's quite possible that, you know, there's 2 Russians that are talking to each other and are maybe not aware, but I did actually have to tell someone the frequency was in use as well. So with that, and with the increasing noise levels that I'm now getting, I'm going to probably go QRT. I see on my timer we've been talking for 36 minutes. So I've made a video of this, and with your permission, I'll put it on YouTube. If you want to hear yourself on my radio out of southeast England, you're more than welcome. The channel that you're looking for on YouTube is M0JCF Ham Radio. So if you want to jump on there and see yourself, I'll have it on there probably this evening, the evening my time, which will be afternoon your time. So on that note, I'll wish you very best 73 for now. And if you hear me on 10 and 12 meters, come and say hello, and we'll carry on with the conversation. But I won't hold you up any longer now. As I say, I'll shut the station down and let someone else have the frequency, maybe even yourself. So I wish 73 to everyone around you, and I'll listen for any finals now, Mike. But thank you very much for this fantastic conversation. KB0 MPV M0 JCF.
No problem, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Your call, please, your call.
So I'm sure we'll run into you again. England is pretty much a chip shot lead.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Your call, please, your call. Please, your call sign. Blah, 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 blah.
And you always hear yourself, you think that stupid accent we got from Minnesota. But anyways, we all sound normal until you hear yourself, I guess. So no problem, Mark. 873, thanks for the info, and I'm sure we'll do it again. And I was going to touch on that carp. You catching carp surfing over there. How I catch carp over this, and I use my bow and arrow. And we go bow fishing, and we get carp quite big ones too. They're 28 to 30 inches is kind of the average on this lake just down the road. They kind of infest the lake, and it does the lake good. I've got a couple guys that like to chop them up and put them in their garden, so it's a good use for getting them out of the lake and good use for the garden. So with that said, Mark 7-3, thank you so much, and we'll do it again. Mike 0, Juliet Charlie Foxtrot, Kilowatt Bravo 0, Mike Papa Victor, 7-3.
73s, and take care. And the station who came up saying blah 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 blah, I think that was very rude. There was no need for that. But take care, and you also have a good day. M0 JCF is now clear. This frequency is clear for use.